Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Refactoring the Adventure Park Trigger. I'm Luke Boothman, and so last time we had completed the before insert and after insert, and now we're ready for our before update. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we're getting ourselves into on this one. So we start off with this idea that the parks need price books. And this is an interesting one because this happens on insert. If we remember, when we created the adventure park, we made sure there was a price book. So now on update, it looks like that's the first thing we're doing is we're again checking to see if it's null. So could this be that people are deleting price books and we want to prevent that? It's possible. It's possible. In which case, though, we wouldn't want to create a new price book because we can guarantee that a price book is created when the park is created. So this logic is something we probably would want to talk to the business about and understand if we really need it. In my sense, it is probably not needed. If we're really just trying to prevent the removal of a price book, there's a better way to do it than to call this method again and reset it, because we'll be actually creating a duplicate at that point. So in that case, I think what we can do is we'll check to see if the old price book has a value. And if it does and the new one doesn't, then we will just reset it so that they can't really delete it. So let's take a look at that. Now, is there a scenario where a price book is created and it doesn't have one? The only way I can think of is that if this automation predates existing data, but I don't think this is the right way to handle it. If that's the case, that there were adventure parks created before we had this price book automation in place, then we would actually want to do that as part of the data fill, not as part of the update context, because it really doesn't make any sense. So we're going to go ahead and descope this, and we're not going to support the creation of price books on update. All we're going to do is we're going to prevent the removal, and this is how we'll do it. So let's start by renaming this as a new park. And we need access to the old park. So we're in the update context, so we can have that. So we'll go into our trigger and we'll see this, and we'll go ahead and get the old map and we'll pass it in to before update. And we'll take our old map here, we'll put it there, and we'll give it a better name called Old Parks. Okay. Oops, wrong place. Old Parks. Okay. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a park here. We're going to pull it out of the map, really. Old park equals old parks dot get new park dot id. Oh boy. And let's go ahead and do this first so we can have it be the first thing that happens here. And we'll say that if the new park is null and old park dot price book does not equal null, then new price book dot equals old dot price book. All right. If we had a conversation, this is a good thing where we definitely want to have a conversation with the business, because we can't say for certain, like, could there be a scenario where someone removed the reference for the existing price book and we would want to create a new one? I don't really know why. I would definitely question that and see if that's the best way to handle this scenario, because that's very intentional. And why would we let the automation handle that for us? But it's still worth having a conversation, just a sanity check. Something that I come back to over and over again when I'm refactoring code is I can tell you what is, but I can't tell you what should be. When I look at the code, I can tell you how it works today, but I don't know if it's right or not. There's no way as a developer that I can tell you what is and isn't right unless I have clear requirements. And if I have clear requirements, then, it's easier to be definitive. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. And because we don't do that, we don't need this. And because we don't need that, we don't need this. And this is a nice little thing. We can see that now we've removed all the references, so now it's grayed out. And so we have confidence that we can remove it. So we're going to do that. And we're going to save. And I think we're going to be breaking our tests. But in this case, we're breaking a test that doesn't need to exist anymore. So let's go ahead and check it real quick, because I'm pretty sure I remember seeing update logic for price book in one of our tests. No problem. All right, it passed. So if we look back at this, we're creating our data. When we did the update, sure enough, we're not doing anything with price book, so that's great. So we have made this change. And we avoid creating duplicate price books for parks. Commit that, push it. Alrighty, that's looking good. Next up, we're setting is active true when the date is greater than today and it currently is false. Okay. So the park is opened on a certain date that gets set in one way or another. And when that happens, it becomes active. This is something that I don't love, because the problem with this code is that it only runs when the park is updated. What's driving that, To me, this makes way more sense to be a batch job. So we can maybe make a to-do here. Move this logic into a scheduled batch job. And that schedules batch job's purpose is to activate parks. And since this is, we're kind of, our goal isn't really to write batch jobs. I think you know how to write batch jobs. We would just basically query for parks that have an open date of today or less. We'd take this criteria and we would put that as our SOQL, where clause to see if there's any newly opened ones that are not active, and we would set them as active. And the same thing would be true for this one. So whenever the park is inactive, it becomes inactive, and the open date is in the past, then we're going to deactivate it. And again, this is not good trigger code, right? Because maybe we update that park, maybe we don't. Maybe nothing in the system does anything to update that park, and this stays in a state that's incorrect. If we're reporting on this and we're looking for active and inactive parks based on this active date or active Boolean, then we're not going to find them if nothing has triggered this record to run. So this is also something that we would want to move into a scheduled batch job. Okay. So for our purposes in refactoring this, let's go ahead and just remove this logic because we can pretend that we created a batch job, and if that's something that you want to do, this would be a good exercise. If you feel, maybe we'll do that. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. We'll leave it in here for now, and we won't write any testing or any validations for this. But maybe in the future we'll move this into a batch job, and we can just get a little practice on creating our scheduled batch jobs. So other than that, this is all good. We can imagine that this code, let's go ahead and actually deprecate this though. So we'll leave the to do, we won't remove it, but we will comment this out and save that because I want to see if we break any of our unit tests when we do this. And we do, good, as we would imagine. So let's come into here and see what we have. So the park should be open. This is like the updating a park. And when we were beginning to refactor this test way back when, we kind of run into some problems with this. So we can go ahead and remove this logic, and we can remove this logic, and this validation, because we're not going to be testing any of this here. We could, if we wanted to keep it and migrate it to a new test, we could. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll make a new comment to do, move this logic, this test logic into the new scheduled batch. Oops. Unit test. Okay. Rerun our tests. Very good. All right. Create to-dos to move logic into scheduled batch. And it could be the case that this scheduled batch actually already exists. And it would not be surprising to come across an org where there was this pre-existing code that did this activation, that they realized it wasn't good and it wasn't working, and so someone did move it into a batch, and now you have the logic in two different places. I would not be surprised at all because this is very obviously a bug or an undesirable delay to this automation running. So it would not be surprising at all if someone realized this and just left this code in and created a new batch. And so this is our opportunity when we work back through and we refactor this code to handle this stuff, because we don't really want that automation in two places. We want clean code, and clean code is reliant upon it doing what it's supposed to do and only what it's supposed to do. Not having old crusty behavior that existed before a bug was identified and then left in place because the developers just either didn't know about it or didn't think about it, which, it happens. It happens. That's why we have to maintain our code. It's impossible that we're so perfect that we get everything right the first time every time. Okay, our tests are passing, and we have our to-dos for moving this into a batch. So before we complete Adventure Park refactoring, we'll go ahead and do this, and it'll be a fun little exercise. But it's important, like I've said before, when you're refactoring, to control your scope. As you start digging into refactoring, you find more and more things to be improved, and you dig yourself into a hole, and eventually you can't get out of it because you made too many changes. So we definitely want to wrap this up and then move into the next thing, because we probably aren't going to be releasing this right away. We may make these changes and then continue to make these changes before everything has been refactored the way we want to. It's gone through proper testing, and then we're ready for release. So as part of this refactoring work, we will complete this as well, right? But we'll do it after we've done the other things that we needed to get to first. It's kind of like the idea that when we refactor, we clean up in layers, right? You clean one layer, you clean one layer, you clean one layer. If you have a kitchen that has, dishes all over the place, you have food that needs to be put away, you have dirty counters, the floor is a mess, and there's a a full dishwasher full of clean dishes. You need to do things one at a time. You clean a little bit, you clean a little bit, you clean a little bit, and before you know it, you have a clean kitchen. Alrighty. So this is looking good for now. And we'll go ahead and stop here, and we'll go ahead and move on to the on after update in our next episode. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you got something out of this, and I will see you on the next episode.